Why can't I be the MVP of the league? Why can't I be the best player in the league?
I truly have enjoyed being your quarterback.
Right between the eyes. A spectacular move. Too big, too strong, too fast, too good.
Can't do what we do. We play like we play.
Can you feel that? That thing that's beating in your doggone chest right now. Can you feel that? Can you feel what's about to happen on this field, man?
What is up, diehards? Mr. West is in the building for Awol Sports. Preseason, in the middle of it. The regular season inching closer and closer and closer. You can just feel it. The regular season right around the corner. And you better believe I've been doing my homework. Looking at second round draft picks as wide receivers. Looking at the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Three key statistics that I've tracked over the past 5 seasons. Kind of surprised that 2014 and 2015 brought way more impressive passing stats than the past couple of seasons have. You would think it'd be the opposite. That's not the case, and I'll go over those specific numbers with you later on in the show. I want to hit the second round wide receivers because my buddy at work keeps talking about Dante Pettis. So I'm going to give you the second round wide receivers and their statuses over the past few years on who's a success, who's a contributor, who's a bust. I don't really like using that word. I like people. I hate demeaning people. But this is football, and this is what we do as fans and analysts. It is what it is. Their play defines everything. So in the offseason, Jimmy Garoppolo, who's recovering from a knee injury, says Dante Pettis is, quote, something else, a tremendous talent, end quote. So I looked at the second round wide receivers, and this is a list. It actually goes beyond a few years. It's from the year 2010 to 2017. I didn't count last season, 2018. Those guys are mostly to be determined. It's too fresh. So, 2019... I'll give you the guys that were drafted 2019, 2018 if you want to keep an eye on them. And then we'll get to the years that I kind of did some research on from 2010 to 2017. So the past 2 seasons, here's who was drafted in the second round at the wide receiver position. This past draft, Deebo Samuel to the Niners, A.J. Brown to the Titans, Mecole Hardman to the Chiefs, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside to the Eagles, and it's actually pronounced Arthega, with the TH instead of a C for Sega. Nonetheless, moving on, Paris Campbell to the Colts, Andy Isabella to the Cardinals, and DK Metcalf to the Seahawks, who is going to recover quickly, supposedly, from a knee injury. Moving forward, 2018, Cortland Sutton over in Denver, the aforementioned Dante Pettis in Frisco, Christian Kirk over in the desert of Arizona, Anthony Miller in Chicago, James Washington in the black and yellow with the Steelers. All right, from 2010 to 2017, out of 43 second-round wide receivers, minus the 7 that were just drafted in 2019, and yes, it's early for the 2018 draft players that we just went over as well, so subtract those 5, and we're down to 31. 31 wide receivers from 2010 to 2017 drafted in the second round. 11 of 31 have panned out so far. So far. It's about a third. Granted, some are TBD, but they are from the same draft class as others that have instantly become somebody. So if somebody's count, so do the TBDs. 11 out of 31 means Pettis and Samuel, etc., they all have a chance. But they could bust as well. That's a 2 out of 3 chance. I just thought the whole Dante Pettis fantasy football talk warranted some research. And this is what we came up with. So the highlights. 2017, Juju Smith-Schuster. 2016, Michael Thomas of the Saints. Date back a little bit. 2014, Devontae Adams. 2014, Jarvis Landry. 2013, tack on Robert Woods. He just is coming off his first season over 1,000 yards. Then you go back to 2012, Alshon Jeffrey. A year before, in 2011, Randall Cobb. And the year before that, 2010, Golden Tate. And these guys are still in the league. They're all starters. Here are the players that are still TBD. Zay Jones in Buffalo. Curtis Samuel in Carolina. And I put Tyler Boyd of the Bengals on this list. He is coming off a 1,000-yard season. It's a little bit of an asterisk. Maybe he's a tweener. Maybe you want to highlight him instead of saying he's TBD. It's a new offense in Cincy. Tyler Boyd, he hit a K. AJ Green got injured. That's probably why. But guess what? AJ Green entering this season, injured again. Gonna miss some games. So I'd understand if you want to lean towards being a highlighted second-round wide receiver for Tyler Boyd already. I get that. For me, TBD. I don't fully trust Andy Dalton. AJ Green is the unquestioned number one once he returns, whether it's week 2, week 6, whatever. And I'm not so sure Boyd's going to hit a K again. That's why I have him there. Not that I don't like him. And then, some guys that are contributors. It's Jordan Matthews. He's been a contributor for the Eagles. He's now on the Niners. We're talking about Allen Robinson. He had some good days in Jacksonville. This year, second year removed from a knee injury in Chicago. And then Torrey Smith. Back in 2011, he was with the Ravens. Contributed on a Super Bowl winning team with the Eagles. And now he's with Carolina. As for the other guys, I'm just going to go down the list here. Devin Smith, drafted by the Jets. Dorial Green-Beckham, drafted by the Titans. Devin Funchess, drafted by the Panthers. He gets a second chance. He's now with the Colts. So maybe he resurfaces. Just maybe. Perhaps the same can be said for Marquise Lee, recovering from a knee injury in Jacksonville. Paul Richardson, drafted by the Seahawks. He hopes to find some form of health in Washington this season. And then, next guy would be Cody Latimer, drafted by the Broncos. He's now part of a rebuilding receiving corps on the Giants. You have Justin Hunter, drafted by the Titans. Aaron Dobson, drafted by the Patriots. Brian Quick, drafted by the Rams. Stephen Hill, picked by the Jets. Ryan Broyles, a Lions pick. Reuben Randall, remember him from the Giants? How about Titus Young? He was hyped up for Detroit. Greg Little, drafted by Cleveland. Dexter McCluster, a pick by the Chiefs. Aurelius Ben, picked by the Buccaneers. That's the list. There you have it. You can be the judge. Replay this so you can get the names down. 1/3 have been successful. Some are still TBD. So again, to recap, the successful wide receivers from 2010 to 2017, Golden Tate, Randall Cobb, Alshon Jeffrey, Robert Woods, Jarvis Landry, Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, Juju Smith-Schuster, and the guys on my to-be-determined list, Zay Jones, Curtis Samuel, Sterling Shepard, and Tyler Boyd. Guys that have been contributors and probably will be moving forward, Torrey Smith, Allen Robinson, and Jordan Matthews. Maybe to varying degrees. I think we all can agree. And perhaps Paul Richardson, but I think he's got more proving to do to resurface. Cody Latimer does have a chance as a young wide receiver, but, it's going to be his 5th year. So, some of these guys, they're going to have to put themselves on the map. I'm not going to do it for them. Their play will do the talking. So, yeah, when it comes to Dante Pettis, Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, McCole Hardman, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Paris Campbell, Andy Isabella, D.K. Metcalf, guys that are rookies heading into this season. If we use 7 years as an example, that's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys. And then let's throw in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys from the 2018 drafts. And again, those guys are Cortland Sutton, Dante Pettis, Christian Kirk, Anthony Miller, James Washington. That's 12 guys. And only a third are going to be good. Only a third of those guys. And that's 3 out of 12. So let's do this together. I haven't looked at this part. Thought it'd be kind of fun to do this with you. Which 3 guys are they going to be? Deebo Samuel. He's a rookie. We have no clue. Should we take our best stab at these rookies, or should we put this little fun exercise off till like a quarter of the season so we can make a quick prediction on that and let it play out? Or half a season? Yeah, it'd be easy to say, oh, let me watch him for a year and all. But I mean, I call it as I see it. Right now, I don't have any freaking clue. Deebo Samuel seems like he's a top 3 wide receiver in the Bay. A.J. Brown seems like he's a top 3 wide receiver on his team. McCole Hardman seems like he'd be the number 3. Arcega-Whiteside enters the season as the number 4. Paris Campbell also on that 3-4 borderline. Andy Isabella, 3-4 borderline. D.K. Metcalf, he just got injured. He was on that 2-3 borderline. And then Cortland Sutton, he's, either 1A or 1B to Emmanuel Sanders, who I've loved throughout his career, but I have questions about him coming back from an Achilles. Plus, he's older, and it's Joe Flacco at the helm. It's tough. Pettis, his teammate Deebo Samuel's also on this list. So there's a chance only one of them can pan out, and that might be best case scenario. There's a chance none of them do. However, I am a Kyle Shanahan fan. I like his offensive game plans. I think one of them is going to be at least a contributor, at least a name to remember when you're thinking about 49ers football. Christian Kirk, he's going to have the opportunity. He's learning from Larry Fitzgerald. He's going to be in a fast-paced offense. He's going to have the opportunity. We'll see if his quarterback can really play at this level. And Kyler Murray, that does matter. It's not always going to be about where these guys start. That's just not how the league works. You want to be a high draft pick, but at that same token, you want to be put in the best position to succeed. You want to get drafted by the best team for your skill set. That mutual, oh, we need your skill set, and this is a good environment for you. Not everyone gets that luxury. If you're talented, you get picked probably as high as possible unless you get into some trouble. That's just the reality. There's no boo-hooing about it. You're getting paid. Your dreams come true. You just got to do you. You just got to take advantage. So really, it's on the team to be smart and to make the best decision. It's not really on the player. They're getting drafted. So, the final 2 receivers on that 12-man list are Anthony Miller, James Washington. Anthony Miller is a top 3 receiver in the Windy City. Washington, top 3 in Pittsburgh. So, I'm less inclined to pick a rookie. Less inclined because I haven't seen a down. But what I do know is A.J. Brown, he's been injured. It's tough to start your career out with an injury. Not impossible to overcome. You get healthy, and then you learn the playbook, and then you get into a rhythm, develop the rapport with the quarterback, and then hopefully you blossom as a high draft pick. Second-round draft picks, you got to hit, or GM's going to lose his job. You got to hit. So, Samuel and Pettis are going to get a chance to play this year. They are. Garoppolo, it's going to be his first year, hopefully starting 16 games. Mecole Hardman looks like not only is he going to play, he's kind of an understudy at the same time for Tyreek Hill in case the Chiefs decide, let's move on. And it's Andy Reid as the head coach, and it's Pat Mahomes at quarterback. It's a very good team in Kansas City. If I had to pick one of the rookies, and I had to read some of the tea leaves, even though we're not throwing many bones, Mecole Hardman might be my pick here. Because Arcega-Whiteside, he can get open, he's a big body, plays in the mold of Alshon Jeffrey, who he's being an understudy for, may get some snaps as a number 4, but not immediately as a rookie. He's not going to get thrust into heavy playing time unless an injury were to occur. Paris Campbell, similar situation. Andy and Isabella, he's actually been outplayed by some other rookies. By Hakeem Butler. But we're talking about second rounders here. DK Metcalf has the speed. He's a raw football player. Courtland Sutton, people want to think good things about him, as they do with Pettis and Kirk. I think Kirk's in a position to succeed. But when there's questions about your head coach and quarterback, the exact opposite of what Mecole Hardman has in Kansas City, it's tough for me to pick you as the 1/3 to make it. The Bears, second-year head coach, young quarterback, kind of a gadgety offense. It's going to be tough for Anthony Miller to put his stamp on as a guy that you think about as a starting wide receiver that you'd want on your team. James Washington may be easier to put on your list because of the Steelers' history at the position. So I've already picked Mecole Hardman. And James Washington seems like a logical second person to pick. And we're looking for 3 here. I'm not sold on James Washington, but I will, for the moment, for the time being, buy the Steelers' success at the wide receiver position. So we'll go ahead and put Hardman on this list, James Washington, and we're now down to finding one more. Would you pick Sutton or Pettis? Would you pick Pettis over Deebo Samuel, his teammate? A lot of people like Paris Campbell. But like I said, I'm only sticking with one rookie right now. Maybe you're thinking differently. I'm just popping questions up for you. You're part of this exercise. So I have Hardman and Washington. The third guy I will put on this list will be Sutton. Courtland Sutton. This is just a fun exercise. I am not 100% sold on any of these guys. But based on the numbers, 3 out of these 12, they're going to make it. We're going to know who they are. They're going to make plays. Welcome Joey Balistreri back, everybody.
I'm excited to be here. There's a lot of things to talk about.
It's been a little bit, right?
Yeah, it has been a little bit, but I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me back again.
Of course. A little bit on the air, at least. It's been a lot of bit, yesterday, talking off the air. Talking quarterbacks.
It's been a lot of prepping for this season. It's been a lot of conversing.
Rankings
I think prepping
left and
for,
right.
yes, a lot of prepping for the season to come. A lot of prepping for this episode, I think.
Yeah.
Of talking.
So let's start with prepping.
Okay.
What are Ezekiel Elliott and Melvin Gordon doing?
Oh, I know. Well, I'm as we're recording this, Ezekiel Elliott very privately said with his agency, I believe, to the team that, hey, if you don't pay me, I'm going to sit out of training camp. I'm going to do this, and that. I'm going to, I'm not going to participate unless you pay me what I deserve. Which big men need to get big bucks kind of thing,
Sure.
I think, the guy's right, It's like, why would you be getting paid so much less than everyone else who's far less productive as you? He's arguably the best fantasy and non-fantasy straight across the board running back there is.
Yeah.
I guess that there's debate for him being number one.
But he's up there.
If not
in every
one,
list.
if not two, definitely three. So, he needs to be paid. I do think. And then on the contrary is Melvin Gordon, or on the opposite side of the spectrum is Gordon. It's like
More of a public statement.
Definitely. And I think you're starting a trend again where guys are like, man, why am I not getting paid? Why do I have the most detrimental position to have, but I'm not getting paid for it? I mean, I would pay Zeke more, and I would give him a bigger deal. He hasn't really. I mean, besides him being out because of legal issues and all this stupid stuff he did.
Every other month, legal issues.
Right,
it feels
right.
like.
But in terms of health and everything, I would pay Zeke before I would pay Melvin. I'd pay Zeke more than Melvin. He's younger than Melvin. I think he's found his team. I think Melvin's found his team too. I think the Chargers are his team. But, if you're going to kind of come out of the woodworks and just start demanding the money, which is fine, but making it public. I mean, the only reason why we know about Ezekiel Elliott's thing is because word of mouth comes out, then all of a sudden everyone starts talking about it, boom, 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 bam. But
business is business.
Business is business.
Are you scared though? Any Le'Veon syndrome here? Or
see, the thing I'm scared of as a fantasy owner, the reason why I want to stay away from these two.
Whoa. What do you mean stay away? Like top 5 you're not picking either until you see something settled? Or?
Until that week 1 starts, I don't really want to make a gamble. Because look what happened with Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
As everyone can say whatever they want about Le'Veon Bell. Oh, yeah, I drafted him because I knew he was going to come back. I didn't know. You don't know. That's the thing that you have to understand about sports, and especially with football. If there's talk about it, you have to assume the worst. I stayed far away from Le'Veon Bell in all of my leagues that I was in last year.
As did I.
Everyone was saying, no, he's going to be fine. I mean, the best case scenario is he sits out a game or two and he comes back. Worst case, he's out for 6. I'm like, well, why would you gamble 6 when you can go to a guy that you know is going to be for sure? And now he's at 16. So I'm not saying that's going to be the same thing here, but I think the trend from what Le'Veon Bell did last year may hold up for Gordon and Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think is as extreme, but I do think because that happened and he still got paid, not as much as he did, or as he could have getting his game checks, but because that potential is there, it should be worrisome for all fantasy owners and the Chargers and the Cowboys.
Right.
So, I mean, pay the guys.
And this is what we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
The Dallas trio.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you pay? What talent order?
Mm-hmm.
We all said Zeke's their number 1 guy.
Yeah. But we didn't say not to pay him.
No, you're right.
We said pay him last.
Last.
Right. But, I mean...
That one caveat I had, and you agreed with, was if Zeke did something like this,
Mm-hmm.
you change your plans.
Right.
You kind of have to. Or
Yeah.
do you not? I mean, behind him, they have a rookie, Tony Pollard, 4th rounder.
Mm-hmm.
Behind him, Darius Jackson, 6th rounder. Between the two, 6 carries, 16 yards in their career.
Yeah.
Granted, it's the running back position. People think you can plug and play.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you this much. Dallas, they made the playoffs 2 out of 3 years that Zeke has been in the league, which coincidentally, same draft as Dak Prescott.
Right.
But here's the constant. Rookie year, they make the playoffs. Zeke plays.
And he goes catastrophic
Baller.
that year.
Year number 2, misses 6 games. Dak Prescott's still there. They miss the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Year 3, Zeke doesn't miss games. They make the playoffs.
And they got the acquisition of Amari Cooper. So, and that was in our last time's conversation about who do you pay, and he was in that middle ground, right?
Yeah.
So he's now a factor.
Our order was Dak, Amari, Zeke because of their positions.
Right, but then the talent basis went the exact opposite. Right.
Opposite. Zeke,
So
Amari, Dak.
yeah, so I mean, the thing is that's what's great about this sport, and when you're going into it and the research that you do, regardless of what happens, if you draft Ezekiel Elliott, he's gonna be fine. If he goes to the Eagles, he'll be fine. If he goes to the stays on the Cowboy. If he goes to the Buccaneers, wherever he's going to go as a fantasy owner, you're going to be fine. What you really want to worry about is you drafting him. He stays on the team and he opts out like he did like Le'Veon Bell. He doesn't want to play. He wants to get paid.
And what's weird is he has to report by the end of the first
Right.
week of August,
Right.
or this year doesn't count towards his free agency. He's got 2 years left on his deal.
Right.
He's going to show up. He's not going to win this game of chicken.
Yeah.
He's just not.
Definitely.
So it's different than Lev's situation, but we both agree he's higher status than Melvin Gordon. Chargers, they made the playoffs once in the 4 years Melvin Gordon's been around. And he's only had, as you brought it up, one season over 1,000 yards.
Right. And that's why I brought up my first statement is like if I were to have both players on my team, it would be lunacy to not pay Ezekiel Elliott first and more and longer than I would with Melvin Gordon.
Not even close.
I mean,
I don't think it's even close.
I think I texted you when it brought out or when the news was released about Melvin Gordon's discrepancies within inside of his clause and all this stuff. That I keep it simple: 4 years, 35 to 46, maybe 47 million.
It's a
keep
team-friendly deal
short,
that I'm
short
all
and
for.
sweet. You're risking a lot of money. Obviously, I'm not saying that's a lot of money,
Right.
But it's not. It's not Kirk Cousins 100 and whatever
Fully
bazillion
guaranteed.
dollars you gave him. Yeah, but it's not so high risk, not so high reward. Everyone's happy. He gets paid big bucks.
He's still a baller. We all
Right, for
understand
sure.
that.
And that's the best part is if you gamble with this, if he has a productive year and he has all of those things that keeps him quiet, meaning, he plays a full game, a full season rather, he gets paid what he wants, then when that next contract comes around, then you can give him a little bit of leniency. Man, look we gave you your money. You're making the team happy and you're making the player happy, but you really the biggest sacrifice is making the player happy. I think you're gonna have to pull a little bit more for making Gordon happy than you will over Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott just wants to get paid.
He's gonna get
and
his,
the dude deserves it.
regardless.
The dude deserves it.
I question whether Melvin's going to get his.
Right, he's gone 1,600 yards his first season. He went 900, just shy of 1,000, and then 1,400. But then that second season was also when he was out.
Yeah, 6 games, missed the playoffs, under
Right.
1,000.
So I mean,
There is that concern.
Yeah.
Always run-ins. You never know when it's going to get suspended again or when its last strike is.
Right.
I get it.
the guy's worth the money. But then you look at Gordon's 5-year tenure is like 641 yards for 33 receptions for 192 yards, and 997 rushing yards in the second season, 418, 1,100 rushing yards, 476, 885, 490. It's like
yeah.
it's the guy's obviously. I mean, just by the way it's trending, he's obviously getting better and better every year as it's coming around. The way that you look at it, I guess.
He's for sure top 7 back,
Right.
questionably top 5.
But
just
it's
depends.
like, what do you do with the health? It's a team having to trust that they love their guy, but also trusting that the guy's going to be healthy. Because knees are the big old thing. That's what we were talking about Darius Geis yesterday.
Unfortunately.
Is like, if you're getting an injured hamstring, and then also reports today was saying that he's fine, I'm good, whatever. You're not fine. You're lying. You're making it seem like it's better than it actually is.
And what was the first thought that ran through both our minds for fantasy?
Oh, it was
AP.
Yep, exactly. And I think you'll start to see the trend of Adrian Peterson, his ADP going from I don't know what his ADP is right
was
now.
like
I'm
9 or
assuming
10.
it's like 9, 10,
Even
9,
probably
5,
lower,
9, 6
but-
or yeah. And I'm assuming that might bump up maybe to the shy of the
7,
beginning of
6.
Yeah. Especially since Washington is going to be a big question mark for their quarterback situation. Do you gamble with Haskins? Well, let's run the ball a little bit more. he'll get his numbers there. But
And they're leaning towards Haskins. I just saw a report leaning towards Haskins.
Sure.
I don't know if that's the smartest thing. You got Keenum.
Yeah.
You saw he's capable. I
Yeah.
digress. Going back to Geis.
yeah, but
He
regardless,
he may never get started.
right,
his
right,
career.
and all those variables make AAP look really, really good coming into the season. Obviously, he's getting older, but he's definitively one of the greatest running backs of all time. He's trusted. He had a great season the year before this last one, and a little bit on this one too. But going back to Gordon, he kind of has that where it's the opposite of AP in that comparison. You don't have a clouded backfield like the Washington Redskins have. They have one guy, and they have Austin Eckler, and Justin Jackson there too. But you have a good quarterback. You have a quarterback that loves to throw it to the running back. You have a better offensive line. You have a better defense. You have better receivers. Everything is trending up.
Yes.
But the biggest thing is every single thing that he's looking around. Melvin Gordon's looking around. Everything looks great except for, hey man, let me check my bank account. Oh, that thing's a little lower than I was expecting it to be. So the Chargers just need to do what they need to do, make it a team-friendly deal, make it a player-friendly deal.
Or
I
move
would say
on.
4 or 5 years, or throw 'em
move
away.
on, right?
Throw it away. Just move on before. How many teams have doubled down on a running back that has been for perfect instance? We say this all the time. Todd Gurley.
Same city.
He wanted his money. Now he's, I believe, the second or first highest
he's number
paid.
one.
Yeah, he's number one. And, obviously, I'm not taking it away. What he did the last 3 years was incredible.
Balled out.
Incredible. But now you're starting to see, once that money kind of just sets in, you see what happens. You say, Coach, I'm not going in today, man. My knee hurts or
Kinda chilling a
whatever.
little bit.
You have the leniency, right? Because it's like, man, regardless of what's going to happen, I'm getting paid.
But who do you blame? Because I'm not always someone that has to point a finger for blame.
Mm-hmm.
However, you knew Todd Gurley had knee issues before the big
Sure,
extension.
definitely.
And don't be surprised it happened immediately
Right.
after the extension.
Right.
And I caution the Chargers the same exact thing.
Exactly.
Melvin Gordon.
It's the gamble.
Knee issue pre-extension. I'd only bring him back under a team-friendly deal. Zeke, you got to show him the money.
Sure. It's the gamble. I mean, it's gambling. It's looking at the trends going red, and you still betting black, and it goes red 5 times after that. It's a constant struggle for gambling. Is the cream worth the crop? I think out of I would say probably any running back right now in the league, for the variables of health, of how long they've been in the league for, what they've done in years before, what they can do. I think Ezekiel Elliott
He still has a future.
is the brightest future. Maybe contrary to maybe either CMC or Saquon, but it's like we don't know what's going to happen with CMC because what happens if Cam's not there? I mean, is Cam going to stay healthy? Can we see what Cam's gonna do?
Fair point.
Right. Can we see what Saquon's going to do? I mean, we saw how efficient he is, but is this whole front office thing going to ruin it? But I would say Ezekiel Elliott is the number one definitive. Hey, man, if this guy stays out of legal trouble, could go down as the greatest running back of all time, depending on what he can do with his future.
Right.
And how the Cowboys treat him. I mean, we've seen how they are with their people. They pay him. They just pay him enough to keep quiet.
Yeah.
But you see kind of a trend fall off on, how productive they are.
Especially at the running back position.
Exactly. So I think just to close it off is pay Gordon a good deal. I would go Ezekiel Elliott, pay him, maybe go an 8-year.
You would go 8 years?
Why not?
4, I'm good.
I would say 6 to 8 because you're locking him in, definitively saying you are our guy for the whole entire rest of your career. If you can last 8 years, I mean,
we're kind of saying the same thing. Think about it. He's got 2 years left on his deal. Mm-hmm. If they give him a 4-year extension, that's 6 more years.
Right. I'm saying 6 years from today, 6 to 8 years from today until 6 or 8 years, and then we talk at the end of that. I'm assuming he'll be just 30, right? If not a little after 30. No, I think actually he's probably older than that. But still, it's like the Adrian Peterson situation. If you just pay the guy's going to do. I mean, they're unless something catastrophic happens, Ezekiel Elliott's not going to fall off.
He's going to eat.
And become. He's going to always eat, man. And then you are too. But if you pay the guy, do like 100-something mil, 6 to 8 years, make the guy happy. He's worth it. I think they'll do the same exact thing with Saquon when he comes out of his rookie deal and everything. He's going to want to get paid because running backs now know how dangerous their job is and how important they are on the field, if not more important than a quarterback, that they should be getting paid at least equally as them.
Damn.
So why not just pay the big bucks them, especially since their life expectancy is so much lower than a quarterback?
Then I want to see this happen then.
Okay.
Well, I'm an Eagles fan, so I don't want to see Dallas succeed. But, I like players. I like Zeke.
Actually, you know what? Don't pay the man. Bring him to Philadelphia.
Nah, we good. But I'd like to see Zeke then if he's really that guy. There's only been 8 running backs in NFL history to win the MVP award.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy. And one of those guys, it's his birthday today. The Hall of Famer, Barry Sanders. Just going to run down just his quick accolades. 10 years in the league, 10 Pro Bowls. 10 for 10. Perfect. Damn. 4-time rushing champ, 6 times first team All-Pro. 1997 most valuable player. Number 3 all-time in rushing, and 5.0 yards per carry. On the Detroit Lions. Happy B-Day, the great one.
Happy B-Day. Arguably what people say is the greatest of all time.
Stepped away when he was still at the prime, in his prime, and
went 10 for 10 and said peace.
And just to give everyone the 8 running backs that have won MVP.
Oh, jeez.
In honor, no guessing game.
Oh,
it's a little challenging. So
I was gonna say,
but in honor of Barry Sanders and his birthday, he being one of them. Adrian Peterson, LaDainian Tomlinson.
Is there other years for these? Like the years in which they won?
Yeah.
Okay.
These are all MVP seasons by running backs.
Well, do you have the years on file about when they won?
I'd have to go back and
Okay,
look.
No worries. So I'm assuming, 2008 season for Adrian Peterson, right? Was it 2008 when he just erupted?
I'd say between 08 and 12.
Okay. Or maybe it was 2012
It was
season.
after he missed the whole year. So I think he came back, was
definitely
like 9 yards shy of 2K.
Definitely 2006 season for LaDainian Tomlinson.
LaDainian Tomlinson, Sean Alexander.
That was 2004, I believe, huh?
And I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, though. I mean, he had MVP year,
Yeah.
he had a good run, just wasn't that long of a run.
Wrong team, I would say.
Yeah,
Wrong team to be on.
Maybe. And Marshall Faulk, I love that guy. Terrell Davis, back on the Broncos. Thurman Thomas, back on the Bills. Marcus Allen of the Chiefs. Quite a list. Most of those guys are Hall of Famers. Or will be, like LT and AP.
First ballots, easily.
So, show me you're worth it, Zeke.
I know, right?
Show me.
Yeah, hey, how hungry are you? How much can you eat?
It can happen. It can happen.
It could happen. I think, I don't want to do the whole comparison. Well, if you put those guys in this modern day, I mean, because guys are bigger, faster, smaller, taller.
If you can play, you can play in any era.
Exactly.
If you can play, you can play.
That's what I'm saying, though. But can you imagine those guys
today?
Where
they can barely tiptoe around and touch you?
Couldn't even touch them.
15 yards. Barry Sanders always went out of bounds. LT started to go out of bounds. It was smart. You can touch them, they juke you, get extra yards, bounce out. It was smart.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do have one little trivia.
Okay.
Something I found, so not really a question, but
Sure.
I like sharing. I love history of that.
Sure.
Of football.
Absolutely.
There's only 3 players, in NFL history to win the MVP award that were not a quarterback or a running back. One was a linebacker. That's the only question I'll ask you. I'll give you all the other 2. But who was the linebacker that won MVP?
I'm assuming it's LT.
The original Lawrence Taylor.
The LT.
You got it,
yeah.
man.
Yeah. That's I mean what you're thinking in your head when you think about, the ideal defensive player.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is. We're talking the most elite. It could go down as top 2 or 3 greatest NFL players of all time
You're not wrong.
is Lawrence Taylor.
You're not wrong.
Lawrence Taylor. If anyone on that whole entire list of anyone defensively that deserves to be talked about as an MVP, the most valuable player on the field, it is absolutely Lawrence Taylor.
And let me correct myself. I didn't want to go all the way back to the beginning of time. I went back to 1980.
Okay.
Went back to 1980.
Sure.
So
I mean, the game was a little bit different before 1980s, you know.
yeah. So I try to keep it like in a whole entire generation from 1980 to 2019. So I didn't want to go too far, too carried away.
Yeah.
But yeah, the great LT.
The great.
And the other two. One was a kicker. A kicker, man. His name was Mark Mosley.
Okay.
It was a shortened season due to a strike. The Washington Redskins went 8-1, went on to win the Super Bowl, where I believe he kicked 3 field goals in that game and 3 extra points as well. A kicker won MVP.
Do you have the date on that by any chance, or is it? I mean,
1982. 1982, and that season when they went 8-1, he drilled 20 of 21 field goals.
Wow.
So
Which is crazy because if you think about that now, that's Justin Tucker's first 21
yeah,
field goals.
yeah.
You know,
Tuck
it's
is
like
the
times have
baller.
changed big time.
Yeah,
You know,
they have.
I'm not comparing Justin Tucker and him, but I'm saying just
Right.
your average elite, you know, Harrison Butker, Justin Tucker, Greg Zuerlein, all your elite guys.
Yeah.
Man, they do 21 easy.
They're on the money.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, out of curiosity, I went back in totality of NFL history to look for another kicker. I found one. This guy played kicker, and get this, and offensive tackle.
Wow.
This
He's a big
guy,
boy.
Lou Groza, back in 1954. Lou Groza.
Okay.
Don't even know who he played for, to be honest with you.
He's like the think about throw a dart on a map of the United States, wherever that city lands on, it's there, and then look at something around you and say like the Wichita Buildings. That team, I'm assuming, right?
If someone ever named themselves the Buildings, I'd get a jersey.
Yeah, that's like the epitome of 1800s, 1890s football, early 1900s.
All right, are you ready? We're gonna shift things a little bit.
Okay.
We're gonna bring the audience into what we once talked about.
Okay.
The other day, actually, we talk about quarterbacks all the time, but the other day we talked about backup quarterbacks.
Oh.
And
okay.
we'll get to the aging quarterbacks in a moment.
Right.
So kind of a Fast and Furious segment, like a 1 or 2 liner here. I gave you a list of quarterbacks, and they're all backups today. Things may change, but they're backups.
Right.
Do you have an order?
I do. And I think before it's even stated, one of the guys on this list, we don't even know if they're a backup because they haven't released it yet. And I think you know who I'm talking about. It's
I do.
Josh Rosen and Fitzpatrick. We don't know who it is. So my list will go, number 1, we've spoken off air. I don't know if I've spoken about it on air.
So for the record, with this little game here, we have Ryan Fitzpatrick as the backup.
Right.
And we in Miami, and Case Keenum the backup in Washington. Otherwise, everyone else is a backup.
Right.
Yeah.
And to mention, the list is Tannehill, Tyra Taylor, Jacoby Brissett, Teddy Bridgewater, RG3, Fitzpatrick, Case Keenum, Blake Bortles, Daniel Jones, and Deshaun Kaiser.
Over in Green Bay, behind Aaron Rodgers.
So just to name it all, I have number 1 Tannehill, Ryan Tannehill.
As do
I think it's been pretty. You know, he's a could have been quarterback, could have been amazing, but health. You know, not a good coaching staff, not a good offense. You had one of the best reception receivers with gosh, I'm totally drawing a blank. In Miami with him, he's now on the Browns. Why am I not?
Oh, you're talking about Jarvis Landry.
Jarvis Landry. Thank you. I am so sorry. I'm so tired, everyone.
Eats up catches and eats up. Yeah.
I mean, a legit, but nothing else to offer really. You had Frank Gore in the backfield, and you know all these
questionable head coach.
Yeah. So I don't blame him, but he still produced.
So we both think Ryan Tannehill is the best backup in football.
Yes, I would say.
Because we both think he's possibly still starting caliber.
Now that Nick Foles is an actual starting QB, I will say yes. Which I did believe the way that Nick Foles was producing in the last 2 seasons that he was number one. But now that Tannehill is miraculously a backup quarterback to who I think, and we've said off air, who I think is better than Marcus Mariota, I think we might see the trend change that he'll actually shift to, and they might sell and bid off Marcus Mariota. Who knows?
At the very least, the leash is short.
Exactly. So I say Tannehill 1. I actually have Teddy Bridgewater 2.
Teddy Bridge.
I think what he did in Minnesota was fantastic.
High percentage passer.
Exactly, but that injury is what obviously, he could have been elite. An elite quarterback. But I don't think we saw it enough because of his injuries and such. So I have Bridgewater 2. At 3 I have Fitzpatrick. Only in the fact of it being out of every single person on this list, he has more experience. He has obviously had, a lot of bad games than he had good games, but he has experience. He was the number one guy for the first 4 weeks of last year.
Talk about the streakiest player.
Oh yeah, like the ups and downs. But because there's been consistencies of the ups, I put him at 3.
And real quick, for you NBA fans out there, Ryan Fitzpatrick is J.R. Smith.
Yeah, definitely.
he's gonna make 10 in a row, but he's gonna miss 10 in a row.
Yep, exactly. So Ryan Fitzpatrick is 3. 4, I have Blake Bortles. He was a starting quarterback. People forget that. Yeah, whatever you feel about him, obviously he's had horrible seasons, but they forget 2 seasons ago they were going to go to the Super Bowl,
AFC
but they lost to
the Patriots.
Who
most teams lose to.
Exactly.
Except for my Eagles. But yeah.
Exactly. So, and I'm not saying it was because it was their defense. Their defense was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
It was elite, but it comes from your quarterback. And when he approached the playoffs, he definitely maybe eased up a little bit. He's not an amazing quarterback, but there's been times where he's been a quarterback, your franchise quarterback, to where you can go, cool. Plus, being behind Jared Goff, I think he's going to get more of a West Coast style of throwing, which I think fits him a little bit better, and he might have chances depending on how elusive and how mobile Jared Goff wants to be. If he's going to be more mobile this year, which I'm assuming he might be, he has good legs, he has good speed and everything, that the injury is always there, and I think Blake Bortles can fill the spot for a game or 2 if he needs to be back. Hopefully that doesn't happen in injury-wise, but I do think Blake Bortles can fill the spot.
He brings starting experience.
Exactly. So Blake Bortles is 4. 5, I have Tyrod Taylor. I think it's pretty much on this list. I'm going down basically saying, hey, have you started a game, or have you started for a team without the sporadic here and there because of injuries? Tyrod Taylor was the guy in Buffalo. He was. And then it was even that way in Cleveland. So I think, his maybe it's skill, maybe it's team, maybe it's opportunity, maybe whatever it is, that's fine. But he has enough notoriety to where it's like, man, if something happens to Phillip Rivers, especially how old he is and everything and his history of injuries, I think he could fill the spot quite easily if they need it. I don't think he'll be anywhere as efficient as Phillip Rivers, but I do think that he'll have okay with just filling the role. Like, let's get the game done. Come on, whatever it may be. So Tyrod's 5. 6, I have Jacoby Brissett because, he was with New England, came in, played a whole entire season with Indianapolis, and it's like, yeah, you weren't that great, but you still did your part, which is why he's in the middle of the lineup for me pretty much, because it's like, if you put a guy in the position to where he has to play, for instance, Perryman.
Denzel Perryman on the Chargers?
No, Peterman. I'm sorry, not Perryman. Peterman.
Nathan Peterman of the Bills.
When you get filled into a spot when you have to start, and you you're just, it's like you're not even playing. That's a difference maker. You're gonna do what happens to him and Paxton Lynch. You just retire because no team wants you. They trust Jacoby Brissett enough to where they can say, yeah, man, hey, you were there when we needed you. and you filled the spot, you produced, and we didn't lose all of our games, so that's better than losing them all, you know?
True.
So he has enough trust, I think, to where he would be, if anything were to happen again to Andrew Luck, that he could fill the role. I don't think they would go at 12-4 or 13-3. I think they would probably go the same where they were when they had him starting, which I don't know what the record is,
So
but
below average,
it was very,
to
very, very
mediocre.
low comparison to their typical 10-6. So I have Brissett at 6, RG3 I have for 7, which I'm doing it based off of skill as not so much opportunity, because do any of these guys really have any opportunity? Only if it's injury prone or if something happens to, like Tannehill or Fitzpatrick, where they're like, hey, we know Tyrod Taylor's not going to start before Phillip Rivers. We know Brissett's not going to start before Andrew Luck. We know Bridgewater's not going to start before Drew Brees and stuff. So we know all these things. So I would say RG3's 7 for me. 8, I have Daniel Jones, because I don't believe that he'll start for the New York Giants. But I do think that at any time in the season, they will pull him. I just don't think we have any idea how good he is. Any idea.
More unknowns.
Exactly. I mean, he had a great year in his collegiate year. This is going to his first year. He got drafted ahead of Dwayne Haskins. So we know that they see something in him.
They see something.
But you just saw how many years of Eli Manning, so your vision's you got beer goggles on right now. You know what I mean? So I have Jones at 8. I have Case Keenum at 9. What he did in Minnesota when they could have went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, NFC title game.
That they were heavily relying on that defense. The defense was amazing. You have 2 great receivers at the time, too. You have a pretty dang good backfield. He did enough. But what he did last year, when he had a better opportunity, in my opinion, a better opportunity with how the team was developing in Denver, and just absolutely sucked,
Laid an egg, man.
was the layer of all eggs, man. So it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to bring him into, I think maybe probably out of this whole list, he probably has the highest chance besides Tannehill and Fitzpatrick of actually starting a game, because of the question mark that's going on in Washington. But I think we know Dwayne Haskins has to be played. So it's like, is he the backup quarterback, or is Dwayne Haskins the backup quarterback, or is Alex Smith you're paying all these guys?
Matter of time.
Yeah, so I don't believe his skill at all. And then last but not least, as a Packer fan, DeShone Kizer.
He ain't touching the field.
He ain't touching the field, man.
After week 1, Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. He
I
plays,
know.
and
Yeah.
he doesn't sit.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, I think maybe, it sucks to say, but I think out of most of these quarterbacks, the person who has the highest percentage probability chance of getting injured is Andrew Luck and
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's happened so many times, but I just think what Kizer did in Cleveland and stuff, he's just not.
He wasn't ready then.
He wasn't ready
And
there.
he probably
Definitely is not ready to fill the role.
He doesn't have starting experience that the others on this list have,
I agree.
and he's not the first rounder. Even though he was the second rounder, he wasn't the top 10 pick that some of the other guys
He's just
were.
one of those guys that fell off. So that's my list.
So
And the
go
reasons
1
why.
through 10 real quick again.
I've got 1 through 10 is Tannehill 1, Bridgewater 2, Fitz 3, 4 Bortles, 5 Tyrod, 6 Brissett, 7 is RG3, 8 is Jones, 9 is Keatum, and 10 is Kizer.
And there's Joey's list. My list real quick. Ryan Tannehill at the top. 2, Tyrod Taylor. 3, Jacoby Brissett. 4, Teddy Bridgewater. 5, RG3. 6, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I only put him there because I believe most of his good football is in the rear view.
Sure.
I'm not discrediting his past. 7, Case Keenum. 8, Blake Bortles. To be fair, he just hasn't had good coaches on the offensive side of the ball. I'm not saying he's a great quarterback. He's far from that. But when you have a guy like Sean McVay And I'm still probably the only person on the planet that doesn't think McVay is married to Jared Goff yet because he didn't draft him. I'm not wishing or hoping for anything. I'm just saying until I see an extension, I think the jury's out. So
Sure.
I'm not saying Bortles is going to come in and steal the job, but if he had an opportunity, I think he'd do better than he ever did in Jacksonville, just based on McVay alone.
Sure.
And then 9 and 10 to round out the list, Daniel Jones, Deshaun Kaiser. We haven't seen much of Kaiser. We know nothing about Jones. So, granted, they're all the way at the bottom of the list. I got Kaiser behind Jones because he was a second rounder.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
And opportunity, I would say.
Yeah.
I think Daniel Jones will have a significant higher chance of the probability of starting than Kaiser would.
Okay.
A game. Obviously, Eli Manning is literally sitting there in the chopping block, head in the guillotine kind of thing. It's like, dude, first bad game, done.
Shot fire.
Where it's like, it's not going to happen with Rodgers, you know. The only
no
way
chance,
that Kaiser's going to ever start is if there's injury, you know. So
let's piggyback off that Eli and shot fighter thing. Last thing before we cut out.
sure.
So there's 4 great quarterbacks right now. Older quarterbacks. Possibly all Hall of Fame quarterbacks. We have Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers. So Tom Brady's got Brian Hoyer behind him. Ben Roethlisberger's, he's got Mason Rudolph, third rounder. Teddy Bridgewater, we know is backing up Drew Brees. And then Tyrod Taylor, we just talked about him as well, backing up Phillip Rivers. Say these 4 quarterbacks are starting to get their Eli on. They go 0-4,
Kind of starting laying eggs.
0-6, maybe 2-7, like a bad poker hand. Just how many games would it take for them to pull one of their great quarterbacks? Because
I would say,
I only ask this because they're all thinking Super Bowl. They all think they're a shoo-in for the playoffs, and they're all thinking they're going to win it all.
Right.
That's why I bring this up.
Yeah. I say, and what's crazy is they're all very close in age. And they're all very elite. It's crazy. They're the oldest guys in the league, but some consider the best guys in the league. Whatever you want to look at it. But they're also experienced, and none of them have really had a bad year.
Nope.
And it's not. And if they have, it's not definitely been because of their fault. Especially someone like Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger. You can argue has had a bad year, but for fantasy purposes has produced. For actual team purposes, has always kind of produced rather. I would say every single one of them, you give them 0-8 and then pull them. I don't think you can't cheat any of them out. Maybe Ben Roethlisberger out because of his history of injuries and stuff like that. And last year when he got pulled out and got replaced and stuff, you know, you can't give them not less than 8 games to figure it out, because none of those backup quarterbacks on their worst day is their best day. You know what I'm saying? Those starting quarterbacks' worst day is those backup quarterbacks' best day. So, you know, and even Ben Roethlisberger throwing 4 picks last year.
Yikes, yeah.
And the year before that, you know, it's like...
He's fine when he doesn't play the Jaguars.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, everyone has their bad day, but I mean, we don't. If a backup quarterback has never started a game, you don't even know what their bad day is. You don't even know what their good day is.
That brings me to this question then. Maybe not in Brady's case because it's just Brian Hoyer, and maybe not even Big Ben because it's Mason Rudolph. More of an unknown third rounder. You would think they kind of groom in him. So of course it's a possibility, but less than these other 2. I know it's Drew Brees and I know it's Phillip Rivers, former teammates.
But you have 2
Teddy
starting...
Bridgewater has started games. Tyrod Taylor has started games.
Yeah.
They're thinking Super Bowl.
Right.
They think they're really close. And roster-wise, the Saints and the Chargers are damn close. You're telling me you wouldn't go after 0-5? Because if you wait 6, 7, 8, you're not making the playoffs.
Right. But the thing is like if you go 0-5 and you bring these guys in, then what? So you lose 3 games... And then you upset your franchise quarterbacks, and then you bring them back in and say, no, just joking. We know you had 5 horrible games in a row, but, you know, and then those guys lay. It's
not worth the risk.
It's not worth the risk.
The franchise,
yeah.
The whole respect.
Unless they're not the elite quarterbacks like those 4 listed, you know, or Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, unless they're not those guys that like Marcus Mariota, you can pull the plug after 4 games and say, dude, come on, man, you're screwing us over. Like Eli Manning, who's like the non-elite guys, those guys don't have the ability of saying, dude, look at my track record. Look what I've done for your team.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I would say the least would be 8 games. The most is the whole season.
So you
if
deal
they
with
go
it
0 and 16. That's what happened with Matt Stafford. They didn't pull Matt Stafford and went 0 and 16.
Right.
You know? So it's like, well, what do you do? I mean, Matt Stafford is up there as one of the elite guys. I don't think he's in that category, he's in that tier 2 list.
He's probably in most people's top dozen.
Yeah, I would agree. So, if they don't pull him, they're not going to pull any of those guys. Why would you?
And how awkward
way too
was
much
that Eli
risk.
situation? Pull him and then you put him back in. And if it was
Very.
awkward for a player of that caliber,
Yeah.
no, I'm not discrediting his 2 rings. I just don't think he's a Hall of Famer.
No, not
I don't
anywhere
think he's
close.
been the alpha quarterback in the league.
Mm-hmm.
He's had more seasons where he's finished in top 10 in picks than he's had positive seasons or a positive influence on his offense.
I think it was facetiousness, mainly the fact of like, man, you're the reason why we're losing right now. Which I think if you look at his stats for both fantasy and actual play of football, he didn't do as bad as last year as people perceived him to be. He's just a sluggish, gumpy, funny person to make fun of, but he's not the reason why they lost.
He was a part of the reason.
It was the
He
head
just wasn't
coaching
the only
staff.
reason.
Exactly. It was front office stuff that trickles down to your players, and your players stop producing. You get an upset first, like your wide receiver 1, you get him upset about, the camaraderie of the team, and then now he leaves. OBJ's now in Cleveland, but you get Saquon and everything looks great. Obviously, Eli Manning isn't great, but he's not the reason why you lost. So pulling him, I think, was facetious. Was the fact of being like, you know what, you ruined this for us, so here, come with me. You're going to lose your streak. Not good for a team.
All right, last defining question.
Okay.
It's between Rivers and Breeze. I'm telling you, one of them, in this scenario, one of them gets benched. Who is it? Who do we see on that field? Teddy Bridge,
Jesus.
Tyrod Taylor.
That is a hard question. I honestly, it sucks to say, but I think Phil would get pulled first because of injuries, because you
can only be an Iron Man for so long, right?
Yeah. But then again, on the contrary, though, they've benched Breeze a couple of times to bring in Taysom Hill.
Oh, I think it was more of a gimmick.
Well, right.
I see.
But
you see the crevice there, and you think that
it's they have no fear and productivity without having him on the field. Obviously, they're not saying, Breeze, come on, man, come here. You're not producing right now. He's one of the greatest completion percentage passers of all time.
Ever.
So it's not that. But if they've shown that, hey, man, take a seat, dude. We're good. Or they're saying, hey, man, we need to change some things right now. Can you let us do this? You've given our time. We appreciate everything that you've done. Can you give us a couple games to figure our stuff out with Teddy and with even Taysom Hill?
And he does look a little shot come wintertime, December, January. So
honestly, up in the air. Wouldn't be surprised if either one.
I think I'm leaning Breeze.
I think I'm leaning Breeze now. I think I talked myself into it.
All great quarterbacks, but hey, a fun conversation because all that is possible.
Your job's not guaranteed, man, unless you're Tom Brady.
And on that note, man, we gotta get back to our jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of jobs, thanks, guys.
diehards.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
brother.
All right, diehards, I want to dive into some of the numbers that I've been looking at offensively at the skill positions. Let's start with the quarterbacks. So I went back 5 seasons from 2014 to last year, 2018, and I picked 3 different stats at the skill positions on the offense. So beginning with QB yards over 4,000 yards. How many QBs? Well, on average over the past 5 years, there's been 11. So if we're taking that research, 11 quarterbacks this season will throw for over 4,000 yards. In 2014, we saw 11 quarterbacks do that. 2015, it went to 12. In 2016, that number increased yet again to 13. We saw a decrease in 2017 where that number went down to single digits at 8. And then last season, we saw a dozen passers over 4,000 yards. So there's consistency with that stat right there. 4,000 yard passers, it's been very consistent, hovering around 11. Quarterbacks throwing 30 touchdowns or more. The average over the past 5 years is 7. 7 QBs a year, throwing 30 TDs plus. So dating back to 2014, it was exactly the same as what we saw last season in 2018. 9 QBs did it. The high out of the past 5 years was in 2015, where we saw 11 quarterbacks throw 30 plus touchdowns. And then 2016, 2017, those are the lower numbers, where we saw 5 QBs do it in 16, a trio do it in 17. So there was a dip, and it came back up last season, back up to 9, but the average overall has been 7. And then quarterbacks with over 600 pass attempts. We've actually seen a decrease. It's been a passing league, right? The rules are helping promote more passing, more yards, more receivers, right? Well, the average over the past 5 years has been 4.5, which means this season we're going to see 4 or 5 quarterbacks, based on history, recent history, 4 or 5 attempt at least 600 passes. No thanks to the past couple of seasons, which has come to my surprise doing this research, but I'm sure it's coming to your surprise as well. In 2014, 15, and 16, 6 quarterbacks did it through 600 pass attempts. 2017, goose egg, 0. Not one quarterback did it. That was the year Wentz handed the baton to Foles, and Foles beat Brady in the Super Bowl. It was during that campaign. Not one quarterback got to 600 pass attempts that year. So that didn't help these averages at all. And then last year, 2018, 4, which is closer to 6 that was done from 2014 to 2016. Only 4 did it though, so we still see a decrease over the past 2 seasons in pass attempts. So if you're looking for fantasy options at the quarterback position, 4 or 5 of those guys, odds are they're going to get 600 pass attempts. But as we've seen, the pattern, the number has decreased from 6. Maybe that number continues to decrease. It would come to my surprise since it is more of a passing league. So I guess we got to kind of piece that stat together with some of the running backs, some of the receiver numbers, and tight end numbers that we're about to go over. Running backs, over 1,000 yards rushing. The average has been 10, and over the years, it's been very consistent dating back to 2014. So this year, expect 10 guys or around that number to rush for a K. So in order from 2014 to 2018, these are how many rushers did it. 13, 7, 12, and the last 2 seasons, 9. Very consistent numbers. It doesn't look like running backs are going away as we really think they are on the surface. That's a third of the backs, third of the league. As for running backs with double-digit touchdowns, that's 10 plus for you mathematicians out there. It's been a pattern. So expect 4 or 5 because that average is 4.5. 4.5 on average running backs get double-digit touchdowns. We've seen 2 in 2014, 6 in 2015. 2016 was a high. That number increased to 7. But then the past couple of seasons we see 2 and then 6 again. So it goes for the past 5 years, 2 rushers did it, 6, 7. 2 rushers did it, 6. Are we going to see 7 again? Are we? The average says 4 or 5. But if you're buying into that pattern, it could be upwards. And then running backs with 270 carries at least. 270 and beyond. We saw an enormous dip last season. So the average is 3.5 for 270 plus carries. I'm not counting receptions here, just running back carries. That old school that grinded out on the ground. We went from 4 to 2, back up to 5, up to 6, and then last season only one guy did it, Ezekiel Elliott. Coincidence that he's holding out here? I think not. The average is 3.5. Only one last season. If I had to bet on one this season, it might be Le'Veon Bell. I'd definitely throw Zeke into that category if he shows up. If he shows up. And yeah, I do think he's going to get a contract done, signed, and delivered and be on the field week 1. But I'll admit this. Aside from being a football diehard fan and analyzing the statistics and the games on a weekly basis and being super into fantasy football since 1999, I do have a favorite team, and it is the Philadelphia Eagles. And I do respect the talent on the Dallas Cowboys, but I wouldn't miss Ezekiel Elliott. I'm just saying, I would not miss him if I'm being completely honest. I think you feel me on that. Imagine if you have a favorite team and you have those rivals and that running back isn't around and he's arguably the best in the game, you'd feel similar to what I'm feeling. As a football fan, yeah, I want to see Zeke on the field. As a fantasy fan, sure, I'd entertain drafting him. I hope your draft is late so you actually know his status. It's a bummer about Zeke and Melv Gordon, but anyways, I digress. Let's move on. Let's move forward. So, the average is 3.5 over the past 5 years. 3 or 4 guys are going to do it. I'd guess Lev Bell. I guess Zeke based on me thinking Zeke's going to be there week 1. You'd have to imagine Saquon Barkley's going to be 3. And that may be all we get is 3. If it's a 4th, and I'm looking down this list here, I don't see it for James Conner, Nick Chubb. I don't see it for David Johnson, Christian McCaffrey. I'm looking down this list. Maybe Derrick Henry if the Titans are successful. We know, or we think we know, and expect Todd Gurley not to get that many. I don't think Leonard Fournette can last that long to get that many touches. But the wild card on this list I'll throw in is another Jacobs. Brandon Jacobs is retired, but Josh Jacobs, the rookie on the Raiders. I know. It's a big question mark. It's unknown. He's a rookie playing for the Silver and Black that have had a rocky, just a rocky road in recent memory since the early 2000s. So, I'm just saying that would be my wild card guess, Josh Jacobs, for fantasy purposes. But if I have to pick 3 or 4 guys, the number's at 3.5, I'd bet on Barkley, Elliott, and Bell. If I had to pick a 4th, I guess I'd skim through a lot of guys on the list and pick either Henry as the favorite and the wild card being Josh Jacobs. I think that's realistic. You can go through it. You can look at the backs on the list throughout the league. If you've been doing fantasy mock drafts, you probably know it by hand, and you probably either agree with me immediately or you're like, nah, I don't even see 3. Maybe you feel that way. But if you do see 3 or 4, You might want to snag him up in the first or second round of your drafts. Over to the wide receiver position. Over 1,000 yards receiving. I mean, it's been fairly consistent. The average is 22 receivers a year. Over the past 5 years, dating back to 2014, the average is 22 wide receivers notching 1,000 yards plus. From 2014, we had the number at 23 receivers. That number spiked up to 26. Remained consistent to 25 receivers. And then in 2017, we saw a pretty big decrease, a big dip. That number went down to 15 wide receivers, getting over 1,000 yards in 2017. And then 2018 brought it back up a little bit, but it's still a decrease at 21. But that's plenty of fantasy options right there, isn't it? All of your teams are going to have at least one guy that gets 1,000 yards receiving. Knock on wood against the injury bug and all. But odds are, if you're drafting a receiver every 3 rounds, say you get a receiver, 2 receivers in the first 5 or 6 rounds, you're probably, unless everyone's going 3 wide, you're probably going to get, you'll have a chance to get 2 wideouts that'll get 1,000 yards. That's what I'm saying. And you should like that. We all like that. And then receivers over 10 touchdowns. The sexy double digits. Get into the end zone. The average is 9. The average is 9. And again, just like some of the quarterback stats, we've seen a decrease in recent years. It's kind of appalling. We'll go from oldest to most recent, 2014. 15 guys, double-digit TDs. Then we saw 13 guys do it. Then the dip to single digits, guys. Then the dip to 5 and then 3. And only 3 guys did it in 2017. And then last year brought that number up to a respectable standard, but it's still less than 2014 and 2015. Last year we saw 9. So wide receivers stepped their game up to a respectable level, but still single digits. It's kind of a head scratcher. And then wide receivers that get 100 catches or more. We love that number. 100 catches. It's kind of like stock, the stock market. Like a stock. It just started out in the middle, went up, dipped, came back to the middle, and then we saw another spike. You draw it out, you'll see what I mean about it. It's just like a stock. 5 to 7, down to 3, up to 5, spike to 11. That's how many players did it over the past 5 seasons. 5 guys did it. 7, 3, and then 5 guys. And then last season was the high. 11 guys. So that kind of tells you, when you're comparing the receptions and the touchdowns, that receivers are heavily involved between the 20s to move the ball up and down the field in the passing league that we're in today. However, the touchdowns, and we'll find out more in a moment as we get to the tight ends here, it seems like the touchdowns are either going to rushing quarterbacks, to the running back, or the tight end. We'll get to validate that in a moment with tight ends coming up. Tight ends over 800 yards. Last couple of seasons has been lower. The average is 6. Back in 2014, we saw 7 tight ends get 800 yards or more. Number went up to 8, then went down to 6. And the last 2 seasons, 4. Last 2 years, 4 tight ends, 800 plus yards. The average is 6. I'm more inclined to follow the trend here of 4, but then I'm looking at the tight ends in fantasy football. I'm looking at this list here. And, of course, you got what we think are the big 3 with Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, George Kittle. And then we got the next group that's about 4 guys. O.J. Howard, Evan Ingram, Hunter Henry, Jared Cook. Those 4 guys. I could see all of them getting 7+ touchdowns, which is our next stat. I'm not sure about the 800 yards. I'm not sure about that one. Because when you think about it, Kelsey, yeah, he's going to get his. Ertz is going to get his, but we will see a dip in numbers. But yeah, he's going to be reliable. He's still going to get his. Kittle, he put up outrageous numbers last year, and he may and probably will get more attention from defenses, more coverage, despite having what we think is a better quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo when you compare him to the other guys from last year in Beathard and Mullins. So even though I think Ertz and Kittle, their numbers slide back a little bit, they're still studs. They're still reliable. You still want them in fantasy. They're still probably going to put up enough numbers to separate them, to have that gap between the next 4 of Howard, Ingram, Henry, and Cook. And then you got Eric Ebron, who had double-digit touchdowns last year. Vance McDonald, who may get more targets. AB's gone. That's so many opportunities, 150-plus balls that Big Ben's got to throw elsewhere. Even if you think Big Ben throws 50 less balls, that he's got to throw it somewhere. It's not like they have one guy. Juju and AB both had over 140 targets. So Juju's still going to have that. If Juju's number goes up to 170, whoo, man, he might be in consideration to be the first wide receiver off the board based on volume alone. But yeah, there's no other guy that's going to get AB amount of targets. And then you got Austin Hooper, David Njoku, Mark Andrews. I like Jordan Reed a lot. I know he's been hurt, but he's a baller. He's taking care of his body. He's the second year removed from injury. So he's back on my radar. He might not be on yours, but he's back on mine, especially if you're in a deeper league. And then you got some forgotten veterans aside from Jordan Reed. You got Kyle Rudolph, just got an extension. Delaney Walker in Tennessee. Greg Olsen, I know he's been hurt, closer to retirement every day as we speak. Just like Delaney Walker. But Greg Olsen, when he's on that field, he gets the ball from Cam Newton. It's a Norv Turner offense that uses tight ends. Jimmy Graham. Rookies like TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant. I don't know. We're all, we all want to stiff arm the rookies, and that's fine. But I'm just throwing their names out there. Tight ends deep, especially in standard leagues. If it's PPR, it's less deep, but in standard leagues, there's more options than you think at the position. Chris Herndon suspended 4 games, but he'll be there the next 12. So yeah, so tight ends over 800 yards. The last 2 years it's been 4, and it might stay around 4. And then for TDs, 7 TDs or more, the average has been 5 guys at the tight end position. Besides last year where we only saw a trio do it, which is the top trio coming into this season, Kelsey, Ertz, and Kittle, it's been 6 tight ends from 2014 to 2017 to score 7 TDs or more. 6. I can see that being maintained here because aside from Kelsey, Ertz, and Kittle, I like the other 4 guys, which would bring the number to 7 if they all do it. That's not even counting Ebron, who scored more touchdowns than all of them. And Njoku and Hooper, they're not going to have any defensive attention because of the wide receivers they play alongside with. That brings the total to 11 tight ends that could possibly do it. So if the average is 5, I'm betting the over. And then for tight ends, getting 70 catches or more, the average is 5. It's been consistent over the years. We've seen the number go from 4 to 8 to 5 to 4 to 4. That's consistency at the tight end position. I buy that. A lot of these guys may get 55 plus 55 plus receptions, up to 69. That's still not 70. So if you're going to bet, then put the betting number at the average of 5, that's pretty fair. They can maintain that. It's been consistent over the years. I can see that moving forward. I'm just surprised overall when you look at the quarterback numbers where QB's throwing 30 touchdowns or more, kind of recapping all this here, where we saw dips in 2016 and 2017. It's kind of head-scratching. And then no passer through 600 attempts in 2017. This is the passing league here, guys. But yeah, so just some interesting stats. Kind of just stumbled upon it as I was doing some fantasy football homework relentlessly. And just wanted to share it with you guys. Hope you enjoy it. Hope it wasn't too much numbers. Hope I kind of played the numbers game the right way here. And that'll do it this time around. Good luck. Mock draft. Hope you know your position already. Hope it's not one of those leagues where you have to where you find out your draft order on the draft day. That's kind of lame. In real life, these teams, they know their draft spot ahead of time. So should you in fantasy, but it is what it is. Good luck with your leagues and your mock drafts. I'll see you next time. Later, diehards.